monetary shocks this century, each one devastating to the people that are holding money. And in this video, I'm going to go over what I see as the fourth monetary shock.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Love and Marriage Podcast. I'm your host, Wendy O. This is my co-host, Hotep Jesus, on the Hotep Jesus YouTube channel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, support Hotep. He does a lot of amazing things. Also, too, we have a very, very special guest, a family friend of mine, Mark Moss. Absolutely amazing guy, and he is going to talk to us. Not only is he an entrepreneur, he dabbles in real estate, investing, cryptocurrency. He's got an amazing YouTube channel. I want to say you have 200,000 subscribers or plus, more than that.
Yeah, just cracked it.
Wow. So and on his channel, he talks about personal finance. He talks about all kinds of stuff, and it's just, you can learn a lot from him. So the reason why I wanted to have you on, Mark, is because you DM'd me the other day and you're like, Wendy, because you live in Southern California too, and I live in Southern California.
Yep.
And you're like, Wendy, I'm out of here. And I was like, what? And you're like, I'm out of here and I'm going to, where did you go?
Puerto Rico. We went to Puerto Rico, and it was just like you said, it was literally like 2 or 3 weeks, and we're just like, you know what? Let's do it. And it came about that quick.
So what made you, because we talk about love and marriage on this podcast, we talk a little light politics, and I got some tea later on, me and Hotep got to discuss too, because this is my church. But what made you decide to leave California?
Yeah, well, love and marriage. I mean, I'm definitely love talking about that as well. I've been married for 18 years. I got 2 daughters, 16 and 11. So I'm a romantic at heart as well. So that's a cool theme for your channel. But I've been a full-time investor and entrepreneur. The line between business owner and investor gets very blurred, but I've basically been a full-time investor for 25 years, and I've kind of built my career off of a investing thesis that your money goes where it's treated best. And so every time I'm looking at, should I put it in this real estate deal? Should I put it into this investment? Whatever. It's like I'm always looking for where that money is going to be treated the best, where I'm going to get the best return, where it's going to be, have the least risk and whatnot. And I think that spills over to where your money goes where it's treated best, but also we should go where we're treated best. And so I think that, competition is always the best solution. Competition always brings better prices, better service, better products. And so in the United States, we see a lot of competition right now. People are leaving California en masse, and they're going to Texas, right? New York's going to Florida. And so we're seeing states starting to compete. And we're even getting to a point now where nations are starting to compete. And without going too far, I mean, that's my hope for the future. The way things are going right now, it's looking like we're moving to a totalitarian nightmare. And the only hope that I think is competition. So basically, it came down to competition. California, I didn't feel was treating us the best for a number of reasons. I mean, it's the state has been going downhill pretty quickly. I think it was Adam Carolla was saying California is kind of like that hot chick that was 20 years old and can get any guy she wants, but now she's like 45. It's like California, it's like the appeal is being lost. And like, yeah, there's the beaches and yeah, the weather's good, but like that goes only so far. And at this point, it was a financial decision, I think, more than anything. With talks right now, with pretty serious talks of seeing the state income tax go up to 16.8 next year, doing a 10-year retroactive tax deal. I mean, it would put California not only to the highest tax in the nation, but almost double the highest. And so it ends up with me keeping about $38 of every 100 that I make. And I'm not treated best that way. And so I just kind of had to go figure that out. So that's what we did.
Wow. That's like, and so you picked up your family and you're like, we're getting the F out of here.
Yeah. I mean, it's something, so where can we go that we're treated best? And it's something that's been on my radar for maybe a decade. I never wanted to leave Southern California. I still don't want to leave Southern California. My family's there. My wife's family's there. It's everything I know, and it fits my lifestyle. But it's been on my radar for a long time. We really started talking about 6-7 months ago, but I just thought there's no way we can get the kids and the family to do it. And they seemed like they were on board. And so, we packed up. Something that Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Workweek kind of preaches is that nothing is irreversible. And so people go through life afraid to try things, but it's like, so what? Like try it. If it doesn't work out, just go back. And so everyone's like always afraid to try things. And he kind of made that point, like nothing is irreversible. And so we're here. We packed up, we came, we're here. And guess what? If I don't like it, I hop on a plane and I go back. That's it. It's easy. So it was a pretty low risk move at this point, I guess. What school? There ain't no school. Kids ain't going to school. So it was like, I mean, literally, right? It was like perfect. So it was kind of like, well, shoot, the kids aren't going to school. I mean, they're doing online school. If you have kids, you know how well that's going for them, and that's not well at all. The kids basically, yeah. I mean, well, that's what they were doing anyway. Yeah, I mean, that's what they were doing anyway. No, we tried to distance ourselves from California as much as we need to. We have to spend 6 months and a day in Puerto Rico, so we'll be in California for 5 months and here for 6 months. But we really need to distance ourselves from California. So they were going to an online charter school, a California charter school, but we did pull them out of that. Now they just take a general online school. For them, it's no different. I mean, it's still fully accredited with the school districts and colleges and all that stuff, still honors classes, all that. So it's really no different, but it's technically not, it's not a California charter school. The charter school in California was like giving us like a little bit of money, right, towards the school. So we're not getting that anymore. So there's a little bit of a difference. But as far as what they're doing on a daily basis, it's still the same for them.
So I kind of want to segue back into the schooling with the kids because like my daughter, she's going to be going to. We moved out of the neighborhood we lived in because it was not a good neighborhood. We wanted to go to a nicer neighborhood in California because the schools are going to be different. But now I'm kind of concerned about like the online classes. Like, is it even going to matter? Like, could we have just stayed in the hood and like sent her to the online classes there? Like, are things going to open up? Like.
I mean, I think they will eventually, but I'm a freedom maximalist, like big time. And so, I know that could be a whole nother conversation, but I want to go where I'm treated best, and I'm living that, right? I'm putting my feet in motion. I'm living what I'm saying, and so I will go where I'm treated best. And so, if there's anywhere in the world I can live for free, that's where I'll be. Bitcoin fixes that. But when it comes to school, kind of the same thing. I mean, I'm not super happy with the way that they're handling schools right now. And if things are going to be as they are, like I don't want my kids there. And so that's a hardcore approach. That's my approach. Right now, we don't have an option. It is homeschool, and that it is what it is. In the future, will things change? Maybe, but things are changing so fast right now that it's all just a bunch of big ifs right now.
How does your wife feel about like how was she with it? Was she just like, okay, babe, let's go?
Yeah, she's hardcore, man. She's just like ride or die. Like she's my ride or die for sure. She's down, and she was the one that actually kind of pushed it. And I was the one, like, I'm the dad, right? So all I do is think about providing for my family and try to like give them everything they need. And to the point that I've spoiled my kids to a point that I'm not happy with. I just don't know any other way, right? And so everything I do is I think about my family, and even to the point with like moving here, and I'm just like, I mean, we're getting like 120% pay raise for coming out here, but is it worth it? Like, is making or saving all that money worth like doing this to the kids and like risking, whatever? But she's on board with it. She thinks that the kids need to suck it up and deal with it, and and we're here.
I kind of want to know about tell me and Hotep more about the family dynamic you guys have, because Hotep and I talk very, very extensively about the nuclear family. We are both bullish bullish as all hell on maintaining the nuclear family, because it's obviously going south in the United States, people, and we'll talk about that in a little bit
for sure.
But talk to us about how your family dynamic is set up.
Well, yeah, I mean, the nuclear family is super important, and obviously there's tons of statistics that back that up. But as far as my own nuclear family, my parents have been married forever, and when I was thinking about getting married, I was kind of looking for a girl whose family was also married. I thought maybe that would be kind of ideal. So we both have like really good families. And we have 2 kids, as I said. My wife, she stayed at home. She runs the household. So that's a ton of work. I couldn't imagine being a single parent for sure. So, she runs the household. So that's taking care of the house, the bills, the kids, obviously, the school, and our crazy travel schedule. Even before moving to Puerto Rico, I mean, we travel a lot. We're surfers, so we're like chasing waves all around the world and snowboarding around the world. So like once a month we're traveling. So like she handles all that. She's kind of like my personal assistant. So she works her ass off doing that kind of stuff. And then I try to keep money in the bank account, So that's kind of the dynamic that way. I think, we both respect each other and I think that goes a long way. And, my philosophy was just kind of like the 4 love languages, I think is what talked about, right? Like relationships being like a bank account, right? Like trying to make sure there's more deposits than withdrawals. Like, that big withdrawals coming at some point to make sure there's deposits in there to cover it up or to cover it. But yeah, I guess that's the dynamic. It's a little bit more challenging. And I know, Wendy, your kid's very young, so just wait. But man, once those kids start getting older, it definitely changes the dynamic of the family. And probably like most, if not almost all, like the disagreements or fights, if I want to call it that, between me and my wife might be in regards to the kids. Maybe a little bit of different style in how we want to deal with things. And then, like I have a 16-year-old and my 11-year-old's kind of like a 16-year-old, and they're cranky, and that adds a lot of angst and kind of arguing in the mix and whatnot. So yeah, it's definitely it's a moving and kind of evolving dynamic for sure.
You said something very interesting, and Hotep has talked about this before on the show. Hotep, you always say to marry up, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that Mark talked about when he was looking to, for a potential partner, he said he was looking for a girl that, because his parents had stayed married for a long time and they were very part of that nuclear family. But he said he was looking for a girl whose parents were also married as well.
Yeah.
So was that like your way of vetting your wife, like vetting a potential partner? Is like, I want to make sure she comes from a good family, so her parents have to be married?
I mean, it wasn't the end all be all. It wasn't the only criteria for sure, but it was one of those things, right? And I think I think it's super important that you're aligned with somebody that you share values with. And so I just figured that, having that type of a family, we would have similar values from that perspective. I think also, the divorce rate's super high, and there's obviously all kinds of reasons and outliers and whatnot, but at the end of the day, I kind of believe that, like, what do they say? If the grass is greener on the other side, then water your lawn. And so it's like, it takes work, and it takes work, right? And so I think having somebody who's seen that modeled, right, where people have worked and stuck it out and made it work, I think that goes a long way. And so it wasn't the end all be all. I mean, I did say that, but yeah, it was more about just trying to find those values, I think.
That seems to have worked out for you, because you guys have been married, you said, 18 years.
Yeah, it's worked out pretty well. I think what's funny is I think, we didn't really, like, you don't know what the values are on raising kids until you get there. So I'm not sure how you would vet that in advance. But like I said, at this point, that's kind of been more of the stuff that we don't see eye to eye on all the time. But yeah, I think, it's just about respect, and it's about work, and it's about understanding. And I think, and maybe just because I'm lucky, I'm in a good marriage, but I think if you take that approach and you're willing to work and compromise, it works, it should work.
That's a lot to digest, like a lot. Like there's so much to digest in that, I feel like, because it sounds like you guys have an amazing marriage. You guys have a great family dynamic. She is a traditional wife. She stays at home. She cares for the kids. She manages the household. Like, she is an alpha female in the household. And you go out and you bring the bacon home, like
Yep.
old school.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, she's not barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, but and we have a lot of things going on. So it's not like she's just leave it to beaver with a white picket fence making apple pies. Like, she's the personal assistant. I mean, we're running multiple corporations, multiple investments. We're traveling all over the world. So it's definitely more than a full-time job. That's for sure.
Talk to me like what an average day looks like for you, because you've got the YouTube channel, you've got the kids, you've got the wife, and you've got the businesses. So tell me and Hotep like what an average day is like.
Well, we'll talk about an average day before Puerto Rico, because right now everything's on its head, and we're trying to figure that out. And really, since COVID, everything's been kind of turned on its head. I believe that humans need like a system, right? We need to have a schedule. And I think, one of the biggest things that I've seen when people want to quit their job and start their own business is they think they want to be free. But it's the structure and the discipline that gives you the freedom. And without the structure and discipline, you don't have the freedom. So I like to have that, but COVID got rid of all that with the kids not going to school. My oldest wants to party time every single night with her friends. And so now we're in Puerto Rico. But I would say like a typical day would be, I try to get up about an hour and a half before anybody else in the house. So I'll typically get up about 6 a.m. And I believe that you win the morning, you win your day. And so I believe that I've said it multiple times on my social media that I believe that success in life comes not from the one big thing. So everybody's waiting for that one lucky break. If I can meet that one person, if I can get this one investment, if I can get this one, like they're waiting for that one thing, but that's not how success comes. Success comes from the steady, consistent things done over a long period of time. And so we need to be able to string the days together and start stringing the weeks together. And people blow their days all the time. And then next thing you know, you blow a couple days a week. And then next thing you know, a couple weeks, and like your year's done, right? So win the morning, win the day. So I get up an hour before everybody else. I try to drink about half this thing of water as I walk downstairs to start my coffee. I drink bulletproof coffee every day. I do intermittent fasting every day. So I do about like an 18-hour fast every day. So I start the coffee. I do like a 2-3 minute workout, 50 push-ups, 50 squats, a minute of jumping jacks, a minute of calisthenics, do some stretching, stuff like that. I sit down. For me, it's reading and meditation in the morning. Really, I read the Bible and first thing in the morning. Then I get up, have my coffee, and then I try to attack the most important thing on my list. And really it starts from the night before, which is planning out what my day is in the morning. Sometimes even in the morning before I get out of bed, I'll spend a few minutes kind of thinking through my day, even like pre-running it. But anyway, so then I'll attack my most important task first thing in the morning. Usually it's something creative. So for me with the YouTube channel, my groups that I run, so I'm creating a lot of content. So I usually try to do something like that before you let the day creep in. Because once you get on Twitter, once you get on email, once you get on whatever, Facebook, it like kind of just blows my brain apart. Like it fragments everything. And so in the morning, like when I do that routine, I'm super clear, I'm super focused, I'm super creative. So I'll get that done. And then usually probably by 10 o'clock or so, then I'll go ahead and start checking messages and see what the world has for me. I'll tap in for a little bit, keep it kind of compartmentalized. And then I would say I typically work till 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and that's about it. We eat dinner at home, probably 4 nights a week. I don't know. That enough?
Yeah, no, I was just kind of curious I was kind of trying to pick your mind on that and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, so it's that. I mean, I run a couple different businesses, so I still do a lot of investments. So a lot of like pre-IPO stuff. I just got in a new deal today. It's a silver mining company. I got in one like a month ago that was Plant X. It's a plant-based food company. So I do a lot of like pre-IPO stuff like that. I'm doing a lot of other investments still. A lot of other investments. I have a private investment group that I coach. So I have about almost 1,000 members in that group that I coach. So a lot of work there. I do live streaming in the group once a week. I do 2 YouTube videos a week plus 1 interview podcast a week. I'm usually guesting on other people's shows once or twice a week. So it's pretty busy. There's a lot of moving pieces for sure. I've gotten it to the point right now. I'm trying to. They say if you want to get something that you haven't got, you have to do something you haven't done. And so I'm making the jump right now to go from this like solopreneur. And right now, the last like 60 days, I've been in the process of scaling up a team. And so I've been hiring quite a bit of people, and that's definitely something different, really getting a lot of stuff off my plate. And so my goal is to work less and make more money, and that's how I'm going to do it.
Fascinating. Fucking fascinating.
A lot of stuff there.
Natasha Kayleen, $5 super chat. She said, you can't shortchange yourself for trying to include others and make people fit in. Values over fantasy land. Florida man FinTech said, yo, you got crypto legend Wendy O in the house. Mark, where's your favorite place to snowboard? Just got back from Colorado, not dealing with the mass BS. And could you even marry a girl that won't shred with you? Hotep, love you, bro. Thanks, bro. Take L's. 999 said just showing love. Thank you. You want to answer that question? Best place to snowboard?
Well, I think, Colorado's great. Usually I would go to Utah because it's so close. Usually once a year I do a trip up to 1 to 2 trips a year up to Canada, but we're not allowed to go to Canada right now. So I would say typically I like to go to Canada. Like Baldface is one of my favorite places to go right there. Banff maybe as well. Just the snow super light. Utah as well. So those are probably my 2 favorite places for snowboarding.
I want to go to the genesis of Mark Moss.
All right. We'll go deep.
Were your parents entrepreneurs?
Yeah, my dad's a contractor. So my dad's a flooring contractor. He basically lays tile floors. And my grandfather was a farmer. So my dad grew up on a farm. And then he went into the military, Vietnam. He was he went through college. Then back then in Vietnam, they were drafting. So he enlisted, so he didn't have to get drafted. He went in as a captain in the Air Force. He was a fighter jet pilot. And then he started doing construction. So that's an entrepreneur, right? I mean, you're a contractor.
Right.
And I think that goes a long way for sure. I was definitely raised what I would consider today in more of like a non-traditional way. And I think that's gone a long way to allow me to be a free thinker. But yeah, my dad was an entrepreneur.
What do you mean
my mom would stay at home.
What do you mean by non-traditional?
Well, I think, my parents were, my dad was a contractor, as I said, my mom stayed at home. I mean, maybe back then that was kind of traditional, but even back in when I was young, which wasn't normal, I was homeschooled for a couple of years, and that wasn't normal back then. I spent most of my life in private school, so I'm outside the public school system. So I guess that's probably what I'd say. So we were taught, my dad started taking me to go work with him when I was 10 years old, like no joke. Like this was in Texas, in South Texas, like 100-degree summers, and I had to go like carry heavy tile boxes, at 10 years old in the summer heat when all my friends were out playing. And when I was older, he started paying me like $1 an hour. When we moved from Texas to California, the summer between 8th and 9th grade, which was an important time for me growing up. But nope, not for me. I got dragged up to California and had to work the whole summer with my dad to get ready to bring my family out. So I think those are a little bit different than probably the average kid's life, raising.
So all right, did you go to college?
Nope.
All right, so you're 18 and like, what do you go into? What is you go work at McDonald's or something like that, or what was your first like?
I at 18 I wanted to go to college to Colorado and be a pro snowboarder, and I was on the path chasing a pro snowboard career at the time. I was competing and was doing really good, and I kind of had the sponsors lined up for that. But my parents couldn't afford to send me to the college in Colorado. They wanted me to go to local college, and then I was like, well, if I can't do that, then I'm not going at all. And my mom begged me, no, you got to go to college. And I just said, I don't want to do it. It's not for me. They begged me to go. So I went and I did like the college admission test. And I literally showed up at the college. I sat down. I'm doing the test. I get like halfway to the test. And I'm like, no, put the pencil down. I just walked out and I was done. So I've kind of never had a job. I mean, my dad made me work for him. When I was in high school, when I was a senior, I'd never had a job. I was a senior in high school. My parents took care of me pretty good. I played a bunch of sports, so I stayed active. But I started, if you want, like the genesis of how that worked out, I was one of my best friends. We were at a football game. He was like, hey, you want to come work for my dad's company? I'm like, what are we going to do? He's like, oh, we're going to sweep floors and smoke pot. And I'm like, oh, okay, sounds cool. And we started working there. There was like, just like a couple of us, it was like this engineering lab. And they got hired. They invented this dental camera. It was the first camera ever made. They designed it. And then they got hired to build it. And so we started building it. And so right after I graduated, I just started working there full time. And I never like filled out a job application. It was like, I was working there with just 2 of us. And next thing you know, It grew, got bought out. Next thing you know, it was a publicly traded company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I knew everybody in this brand new industry, and I worked my way all the way up to the top. I crushed it. I was traveling the world, running their whole trade show department and the marketing department for this, hundreds of million dollar publicly traded company. I left that company, started my own company servicing all the equipment that company was manufacturing. And I crushed it. I sold it off to a Fortune 500 company, multiple 7-figure exit on that. And I've never had another job since. For me, the thought of like, and life of an entrepreneur isn't smooth. It's always up and down, but it's like, I've just, the thought of like, I should go get a job has like never crossed my mind. I've never thought I should go get a job. The thought that I have is like, shoot, how can I make some money? And so it's like a different way of thinking, I guess.
Yeah. That's fucking interesting, man. So, all right. So you do you service, you basically create a piggyback business off the business that you were running before.
Yeah, I mean, I got kind of lucky because this company started this whole brand new industry that was never there before. And so like this main guy left to start his company. This guy left to start this company. So I knew everybody in the industry. I knew everything about it. And so I just saw this need in the market. I saw that these customers weren't being serviced. And that's what business owners do. They solve people's problems and needs, right? So I saw that this problem needed to be solved. I went and solved it. And I did really well with it.
What was the second project?
Well, I've always had multiple projects going on, just like I do now. So when I was just shortly after, I think I was like 19 or 20. So within a year or two of going full time there, I decided, shoot, I'm going to be a real estate investor. And I don't know if Wendy's old enough to know this, but in California, the big real estate crash that we had was from 89 to 92. That was the year I graduated, 92. And so that was like 4 years, a 30% drop in real estate. It was the big crash. And after 92, the banks in California owned all these homes and they just couldn't get rid of them. And so 93, REOs. 94, REOs, right? So 93, 94, 95, they were just anything just to get them off their books. And my roommate at the time, his grandfather owned a bank. It used to be Downey Savings and Loans. It's not around anymore. But anyway, he was helping this Mexican kid in LA who barely spoke English, helping him buy these HUD repos, fix them up and sell them. And the guy was like a millionaire and he could barely speak English. And so my friend's grandfather's like, hey, I've helped you out. Now I help my grandson, which was my roommate. And it's like your net worth is your net worth, right? So like, because I saw him doing it, I'm like, well, shoot, I want to do that. So I got like a VA repo and they sold it to me $0 down. It was an $80,000 duplex in Riverside, California. I bought it $0 down, but I didn't have $3,000 for closing costs. So I got a partner. We split the $3,000. We got some credit cards, Home Depot cards, and we literally did the work ourselves. In 6 months, we cleared like 30 grand. And I was like, dang. So I just parlayed, and rolled that into a $20 million real estate empire in about a decade. But then that was like 95. By like 98, 99, I was like, my roommate at the time, he like quit his job and we were doing this weird thing at the time nobody had ever heard of. We were like trading these things called internet stocks. It was really weird at that time, like 98, 99. Yeah, it was just like crypto, right? Like, what internet stock are you in? Oh, you know this internet stock? And everyone's like, so he quit his job. We're day trading these internet stocks. And the dot-com market went up and the dot-com market crashed. In 2001, I had this great idea where I was going to start selling products online. And after the whole market crashed, and so I built this e-commerce store. It was not easy. There was no Shopify back then. I had to spend like 25 grand just to build this shopping center, and I was selling motocross products online. And I went to and there was no online to advertise to, so I had to run ads in magazines. At the time, there was no .com in the magazine. It was all mail order back then. Yeah. And I went to these companies and said, "Hey, I want to sell your products on my website." And they laughed at me and they said, "No one would ever buy anything online. It's the stupidest idea ever." And I'm like, "Well, I think they will." And they said, "We won't even sell your products." So I built that up. I sold that business off. So I had the real estate thing going. I had the medical dental thing going. I had the internet e-commerce thing going. And then I sold all those businesses. I put it all into real estate and I was developing massive projects. I had a $12.5 million mixed use project. I had almost a $4 million condo complex going. And then 2008 came and wiped me out clean. So, that sucked, but that's who made me. That's exactly what made me who I am today, and exactly the problem that I'm trying to solve today. So,
When you say wiped you out clean, what does that mean?
that means that I was sitting on over $25 million in real estate. I just had gotten married, just had my first kid, 6-car garage, whitewater views, elevator in the house. I was retired, sold 2 businesses. I was done. And then in California, prices dropped 60% in 12 months. And I had to shell out $300,000-400,000 a month for my properties, and I just couldn't afford it. So I ended up going from $25 million in real estate to millions of dollars owed, in the hole. And so that was pretty bad. And not only that, I had sold all my businesses. So all my business was now in real estate. So not only did I lose all my real estate investments, I lost all my income at the same time, and that was pretty tough. And so, yeah.
All right. So, how do you think the world is different from back in those days, right? Because when you talk about like the 2008 crisis, I was selling mortgages at that time, and I remember I remember calling banks like trying to get a mortgage approved, and Lee Duncan over at Delta was like, "Bro, it's over." I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's over." What do you mean it's over? He's like, "It's over." I didn't get it. I kept calling banks, and everybody was like, "Yo, there's nothing. There's nothing." I was like, "Oh shit! The game's over. We're not making money anymore."
Yeah.
So I totally get that. But how is making money now different from back then, especially when you're talking about having the internet?
Well, I mean, it's way different. I mean, it depends on exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I think, from
Easier, harder?
well, it's way easier. I mean, like I said, when I
Right.
started my first internet business in 2001, there was no Shopify.
Right.
I had to actually hire someone to build a store from scratch. It was super expensive.
Yeah.
Today, anybody with this right here is on a level playing field. All you need is this, right? So like, if you have this, you can learn anything you need. You can meet anyone you want, and you can solve any problem that you want. So this right here is all you need to go make millions right now today. And so obviously that wasn't around back then. So that's definitely changed everything. And so, when everyone's talking about this inequality and this and that, and I don't buy it. I don't buy it one bit. If you got this in your hand, everybody's equal, or can be, if you have the motivation, right? If you have the motivation to go on Google and type in your question. So that's definitely changed a lot. I think from a work like business standpoint, right? For making money, it's way easier today. It's the easiest to make money today that I've ever seen, and I've made a lot of money in a lot of different niches over my lifetime. But it's never been easier to make money today. And from an investing side, the market is obviously completely different as well. So I don't know exactly what you're.
That's really what I wanted to talk about, the market. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the market is changed. I think, in 2008 was the first time we saw the Fed really come out and bail out the market. That was when QE, quantitative easing, really was first came out, and it was a $700 billion TARP bill. That was the bill to bail out the banks. And at the time, it was like 700 billion. Oh my gosh, what are they going to do? They're going to ruin the world. Like, no, 700 billion is too much, right?
Yeah.
And it ended up being about $1 trillion, about 1 trillion, and that was a really big deal back then. Today, what did they print? 6 trillion in 90 days. I mean, right?
Yeah.
So I think, at this point, we just know that there's no restraint at all. We just know that they're going to go above and beyond. There's no restraint at all. I mean, I think Janet Yellen is going in as Treasury Secretary, and she said that they need to act big. That was her quote, act big. And so like the 1.9 trillion that they just passed isn't big enough. And so from that perspective, that changes everything, right? We know that they're going to print to infinity and beyond. I mean, they've told us that. And so we've also seen a shift in businesses. So even back to 2008, companies used to like try to make a profit. Like that was like the thing, like companies actually like made money. And today, no companies make money. That's not even their goal. Today, companies' only goal is to raise money. And all they're trying to do is grow, right? And so the makeup of investing in the market has completely changed. And it's really all driven by Fed, cheap money, interest rates, stuff like that.
All right, so I got a couple of questions, and then I want to talk about the future of money, and then I need some advice.
All right.
So you said you got wiped clean. How did you come out of that?
Yeah, so that was tough,
I think you worked on cash flow first.
It was well, no, I didn't work on cash flow first because I had no money. Well, yeah, I mean, you had to get some cash coming in for sure. Yeah, so it was super tough. It was obviously depressing, right? I mean, you feel like you've got the whole world at the palm of your hands. The next thing you know, you're like begging to sweep floors, right? But I grew up racing dirt bikes. I broke every bone in my body. Not every bone, but all the major bones. I've got metal in all 4 limbs, broken my back. And so I'm used to just coming out of the hospital and like, all right, let me get back on the bike and hit that jump again, right? So that's what I did. I don't know any other way, right? I was going to keep going. So I just had to figure it out. But I just knew that like I had proven I was pretty good at making money, but I didn't understand this whole financial casino. Like I was missing a part of my education. And so for me, it was like, okay, I need to figure this out. Like this is never going to happen to me again. Let me figure that out. I didn't declare bankruptcy. Sometimes I look back and think maybe I should have, but it was like a pride thing and I didn't want to. And so I just worked it out, man. I had to work it out with every single creditor. I had to do everything I can. I wanted to stay on really good terms with my creditors because I was hoping to keep those relationships alive for the future.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just worked it out. I mean, I did, I had some short sales and some foreclosures, unfortunately. But yeah, no bankruptcy. I just worked it out. In the beginning, I went into, that was, that was 12 years ago. I think I went into like lead generation, just marketing, online marketing, lead generation at the time. I was, I started that internet business in 2001 and I sold it off in 2008. So I had about 7-8 years of learning how to do marketing online. And so I started doing marketing online. I was doing marketing for some professional athletes. So I had some MMA athletes, some snow athletes, some motocross athletes, and I was kind of doing their online brand at the time because nobody knew what they were doing back then. And then I got tired of working on with all those prima donnas, and I rolled it into doing online lead generation for companies. And so we were doing at that time, I think it was a lot of debt and attorney stuff and like lead generation like that. So setting up a landing page, driving traffic to it. The first one I did, my buddy owned a law firm and he was like, yeah, if you can generate these leads for us, I forget, we'll give you $300 a lead or whatever it was. And I was like, all right. So I literally went home for the weekend and I put up a landing page, set up a Google pay-per-click campaign. I took off on my dirt bike to ride all the way to Cabo San Lucas. It was like a 7-day dirt bike ride. I get to the hotel in Cabo. I pull up my my internet and I look and I just was like, cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm rich. and so I spent like a decade just doing like lead generation and stuff like that. So all marketing stuff.
Yeah, that's super dope. All right, let's switch gears real quick.
And all you need today is this to do that.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
Hell yeah. I have a class every Saturday. I teach people lead gen and landing page optimization and all that good stuff.
So you got it. Then.
Yeah, I deploy landing pages to sell my books. Yeah. And other things too. I have three tech companies right now. So yeah, cool. I'm trying to be like you. You know what I mean? Future of money. Let's talk future of money, right?
Yeah, it's a big topic.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things here. Bitcoin, obviously. Oh, let me read the super chat real fast from Bitcoin Zay because he's in the building. He's like a local celebrity. Bitcoin Zay, $50 super chat. Thank you, bro. He said Bitcoin in Black America. That's his new book. I'm copying that new one, bro. I'm gonna read that. I'm gonna digest that. He said, love to see Hotep, Mark, and Wendy. Thanks, bro. So the dollar. Is the dollar going to crash? And it is. What does life look like if it does?
Yeah, it's a really big topic, and it goes deep and really to understand the money system. I mean, you have to have so much discipline to, understand philosophy and history and monetary principles and things like that. Ultimately, the dollar is crashing. It's crashing hard. People say it's not. They say, no, it's declining. But I think it's crashing. We haven't seen the Dixie, the DXY, which is the dollar measured against other currencies. We haven't seen it fall this fast and this far since 2016, but it did this in half the time. And Wendy probably knows, like when you're looking at a chart, the speed at which it drops is almost as important as how far it drops. Mm-hmm. And in 2016, it was a coordinated drop. So the Shanghai Accord, the countries, the G20 got together and said, hey, the dollar's too strong. We can't pay our debt back. We're going to default unless you weaken the dollar. And they did. So it was a coordinated thing. This is not a coordinated thing. The dollar is dropping. And there's just no way they can save it. At this point, we're past the point of no return. The dollar, think of the dollar supply like a balloon, right? And the more dollars they print, they just inflate that balloon. And at this point, the Federal Reserve has two tools in their disposal. They have one, interest rates, and two, debt, right? They don't actually create money. They give banks debt, right? And the banks then create debt. So interest rates are at zero. So that tool is gone. They're out of that tool. They have one more tool left. That's debt. Well, we have over $300 trillion of debt. We can't really pay the debt that we have. So that tool is pretty much done as well. So they're basically out of tools, right? And that's why we have this great reset that's being set up right now. The game has to be reset. They're out of options at this point. And so, they'll keep it going a little bit longer, but it's declining super fast. And they say it's not, right? So think when you talk about, so to frame this up a little bit, right? The dollar dying, the dollar declining, the dollar crashing, whatever you want to call it. Where most people get this wrong is some people might think they understand inflation, like the supply is inflating. But what it really is about, it's about our purchasing power. So it's how much stuff does your dollars buy? So like Wendy was just saying, she bought her house, I think 350 and sold it for 800. Like, oh my gosh, real estate went up so much. That was such a good investment. Well, not really. The dollar went down so much, it just takes that many dollars to buy the house today. And so it's a whole different way to look at things. And it's an important way because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the dollar value is of things. It's how much we can buy. So you can break things down into like, how many hours does it take for the average person to have the American dream? So for example, in the 80s, I think it was like 23 weeks. It would take the average pay worker to have the American dream. 23 weeks of work would get them a house, a car, a wife, etc. Today, it takes 53 weeks. If you understand the math there, we only have 52 weeks in a year. So when you break things down like that, you start to look at purchasing power and time of labor, things like that. You see, we're screwed. And so the Fed says they can't accomplish a 2% inflation target, but like Chapwood Index or Shadow Stat says we're really at about 12 to 15% inflation right now. And of course, anybody can see it. All three stock indexes all-time high, gold's all-time high, Bitcoin's all-time high, real estate's all-time high, steaks at all-time high, milk's at all-time high, gas is about to be back at all-time high. So everybody can see it. So it's fallen super fast. So I don't know. Sorry, did I go too long?
No, that was beautiful. So all of these different types of securities are booming, right?
Well, they're not booming. It just takes more dollars to buy those things today.
Is there a looming crash coming?
Yeah, there's definitely a looming crash. I'll say real quick though. So to that point, they're not booming. It just takes more dollars to buy those things. So what we want to do is we want to look at the purchasing power. So what we would do, for example, a great chart to look at is the Dow to gold ratio. Look at the price of the Dow priced in gold. Right now, everyone looks at it priced in dollars, but look at it priced in gold. It's a cool chart that you can pull up. And when the Dow, it's like when it's at 5, when you could buy the when it gets down to 5, that's when it's cheap. And when it gets up to, what is it?
15, 20.
Yeah, 15, 20, it's expensive, right? So you want to look at price in different things. Like you could take the median home price in 1950 priced in dollars, but also price it in gold, also price it in oil, also price it in like other commodities, and then track it priced against those other things. So stocks aren't really going wild as far as making a bunch of money. It's the dollars are getting weaker. But to that point, the crash is coming. I believe the crash is already here. There's a couple ways it can crash. And so the Fed and the government doesn't necessarily have to default. They're defaulting through inflation. So they're basically defaulting by putting interest rates to zero and creating an unlimited amount of money. So it's already happening. Like everyone, like I mentioned, the Great Reset. Everyone's focused on this Great Reset event, but it's already underway. Like it's already here.
What is
and
that?
Well, like I said, that they have the game is set, and the rules of the game, the Fed, the levers, the tools that they can play are interest rates and debt creation, and those tools are basically done. So what do you do when the game's over? You have to reset the game, right? And I think that it's not like this overnight one thing. It's like this gradual thing, which we're seeing right now. So interest rates are pegged to zero, massive money printing, massive stimulus. And I think they're trying to keep the game going until they're ready to switch it. And the switch is going to be going to central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, right? And probably it'll be the IMF coming out with their own CBDC, on a basket of SDRs, and then probably try to compress the whole stack. So what do I mean by that? So right now, the central bank, the Federal Reserve, they create bank reserves. So they go to the commercial banks and give them reserves, And then with those reserves, those local banks, the commercial banks can make loans to buy a house, to buy a car, whatever. And that creates money into the system. We're in a debt-based system. So we have a local bank and he knows, hey, I go to the local bank. Hey, I want to start an avocado stand. And he's like, hey, you're an idiot. Avocados won't grow in Puerto Rico. I'm not giving you a loan. Right. But that local banker has local knowledge. Right. And then there's bigger banks, commercial banks, and we have the central banks. And so you have this like decentralized layer almost, the stack. And then you have the government. And then you have like the BIS and the IMF that are like the central banks above the central banks.
Right.
And what they're trying to do, and they said this about a month ago, they called for a Bretton Woods 2 moment. So the Bretton Woods 2 moment, you have to understand what Bretton Woods 1 was. So Bretton Woods 1 was basically the whole world got together and agreed to use a one world currency, which was the dollar, which would be backed by gold. And so they're calling for a Bretton Woods 2, which is to get the whole world back together on one currency. And they said they want to release the CBDC on an SDR basket. And what I think is that the IMF will issue those central bank digital currencies directly to you and me, bypassing the Fed, the government, the commercial bank, the local bank, and just compress that whole thing. So that would be the great reset. I think that's kind of what they're setting up for. But they're not quite ready yet. I think it might take another year before the U.S. is ready for that, maybe 2 years. So let's try to keep the music going as long as they can.
So when you need money, you'll probably talk to a broker handling this cryptocurrency issued by the Federal Reserve Bank, is what you're saying?
Well, it won't even be money, right? So like money is something that you have and I have, and we exchange for each other. It's almost, these will just be like credits. Like the government gives you credits to buy stuff and sell stuff, right? Wendy knows that's what crypto is. It's a ledger, right? That's all it is. It's a ledger. So the central bank keeps a ledger and they give us credits to buy and sell stuff. I mean, it sounds crazy, but
there's so much to dissect there, because like I just thought of like people working under the table, because we have people coming to the United States, they're here undocumented, they get paid cash, they want cash because you can't track cash. What are these people going to do?
Download it to the chip that's connected to their body.
Yeah, I mean, cash is on its way out, obviously, right? I mean, COVID's definitely helping to accelerate that, right? They're trying to get rid of cash as fast as they can. And people say, well, a lot of countries, all they do is, use cash. You can't get rid of cash. But in 2016, India did. Overnight, they got rid of the 1,000 and the 500 rupee note. Overnight, it was gone. And people lost a ton of money. You had like 30 days to turn into the bank. And if you turn into the bank, you had to prove everything of where you got it from. And it was a big deal. So and India was over 90% cash economy. So if they could do it there, they can do it anywhere. But to your point, Wendy, I mean, yeah, right now I think there's like a whole caravan of people coming up from Honduras to come into the border. So yeah, what are they going to do? I mean, right now they'll be on cash, but eventually that's going to go away. And I think how they'll do it is through the UBI, through the stimulus, right? So like, hey, you want your $1,200 stimulus? Download your app, and then we'll put the money right on your app. And of course, who's not going to download an app to get $1,200 or $2,000? I mean, I would do it.
They sent cards for the stimulus. They sent, because we got it because our taxes were like, we didn't make a lot of money in I forget what I think it's like 2019. We didn't make a lot of money because the way my husband,
2019.
We weren't making a lot of money because my husband, I didn't make a whole lot of money in crypto. And then my husband's business, like they weren't making a whole lot of money. So we got it, and they sent them in these cards, and we're going to donate it, but they sent them in these cards, and I actually almost threw it out because it looked like some sort of like spammy mail. Mm-hmm. And what was interesting about it is the first stimulus it was a direct deposit. So I don't know why they direct deposited the first stimulus, but then the $600 they sent you the stupid card.
Mm. Well, we know in the first round of stimulus, there was in the bill that went through, it was there was already the language that all the banks had to start setting up digital wallets to facilitate this. So that was already put into motion. We also know that about a couple of weeks ago, the OCC, the Treasury of the United States, the comptroller, they put out new guidance that said banks are now able to use public blockchains. Mm-hmm. And everyone in the crypto industry thought that was so good, which I guess it kind of is, but like they're starting to they're paving the way for this, right? This is all going to like setting this up. And of course the Fed already came out and said they're working with a team from MIT to like build out their cryptocurrency. So It's in the bill. They just said that the banks can start using this infrastructure. They already said they're working on it. I mean, I don't think it's debatable at this point.
So do we store our money in Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, what we want to do is we want to. So, all right. So this is a great thing to move into. So, what happens is these policies that the Federal Reserve, the central banks do, is they constantly create booms and busts.
Right.
And what the booms and busts do is they transfer wealth to people. So a perfect example back to 2008, right? So what happens is they dropped interest rates to zero after the dot-com bust. And because they dropped interest rates to zero after the dot-com bust, everybody went into real estate. Right. And real estate got super hot, right? And the average person, the person you were doing loans for in 2008, they were buying at 2006 and 2007 at the very, very top. And they suck all the people in at the very top, right? The market's the most frosted top. And then what? The market crashes.
Yeah, they contract.
Then in 2008, 2009, 2010, millions of Americans lost their homes. They lost all their wealth.
Right.
And guess who got it? Wall Street. With free money.
That's happening again. That they're
it's happening again. So they got it with free money that the Fed gave them to go buy up the properties. Like literally. So literally, and then so millions of Americans bought the top, sold the bottom, lost all their wealth, and all that wealth transferred to the rich that they got free money from the government. And now
you're saying because of the repossession of properties?
Yeah, well, like BlackRock. So the government gave BlackRock however many billions of dollars, and they went and bought, however many hundreds of thousands of homes. And now BlackRock owns those homes, and people rent them from them today. Yeah, so that's a wealth transfer. Yeah. And exactly like what Wendy's saying, and we're starting to see the same thing happening today. And so what we want to do, what you're asking, what we do about this, we want to position. So I got caught on the wealth transfer, and this is what changed my life. I learned a concept that said that money is like energy. It doesn't disappear, it transfers. And so what that means is when I lost all my wealth in 2008, someone else got it. And I'm a little bit competitive, and that didn't really sit well with me. And I'm like, that ain't ever going to happen to me again. I'm going to be on the receiving end of the wealth transfer. So I've spent the last 12 years studying these things because I want to be on the receiving end. So what we want to do is we need to focus on purchasing power. That's why I brought that up. So we need to put our money into things that can retain the purchasing power. So when the market crashes again, we're able to buy in at the bottom like the rich do. The problem is, and the same problem I had in 2008, I was in real estate. I knew that was bargain prices. I didn't have any money though. That was my problem, right? So I couldn't take advantage of the sales. And so what we need to do is put our money into things that will retain purchasing power, and then be prepared for when the crash comes to buy back in. And then we'll be able to have wealth transfer to us. So what are those things? We know that the Fed is creating an unlimited amount of fake fiat counterfeit money. And when they do that, that's pushing the need for real hard tangible things. So gold and silver, obviously, Bitcoin, because it can't be manipulated up, and then commodities. I mean, commodities are starting to fly right now. Land, some real estate. So any types of real tangible things are starting to fly, and that will preserve the purchasing power. Some of the economists like Harry Dent says that, well, when the crash happens, stocks will drop 80%. He's predicting that to happen this year. 80% drop, and gold could drop to like $1,200. So don't buy gold, $1,200. But even though gold dropped in USD terms, it still retained its purchasing power. It still has massive purchasing power. So anyway, that's the plan.
Yeah. Great fucking education right there.
In the meantime, don't hold dollars, hold assets. Because the Fed is going to pump that like you have never seen before, because they have no choice.
So what kind of assets you talking about?
Well, I mean, anything you can get your hands on. Obviously, the ones I just mentioned, right? The real hard tangible. So gold, silver, Bitcoin, maybe some real estate, but even stocks. I mean, stocks are flying right now. Yeah. Now, eventually, the market's going to crash and it's going to drop by 80%. So put stop losses on that. Probably, figure out what your own risk management is. But I mean, put some stop losses on that stuff. But markets can go, stay irrational a lot longer, right? So they could go really high. The Feds, they just came out with a $1.9 trillion stimulus, and the new Treasury Secretary said it's not enough. I mean, come on, like it's going to get crazy this year. I wouldn't doubt it if we see 10 trillion get printed this year. And so don't hold dollars, because that's only going to lose value. Put it into assets and let it go up.
What can we expect from Biden's presidency? How safe is my money, or unsafe is my money? Do you have any predictions?
Well, what can we expect from the presidency, or in regards to money?
Both. I want both those answers. I want them both, straight from Mark Moss.
Mark, you did it yourself, man. You did it yourself.
Well, I mean, I can talk about this all day, but it's your YouTube channel.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
No,
Wendy, you ain't warned this guy about me, did you?
I think I just, as I said, right, like I'm a freedom maximalist, and I'm pretty hardcore to that, right? So
Yeah.
and I'm living it, right? I'm here in Puerto Rico living it. And so I would say that it's super scary the way things are going. And what I don't understand is that regardless of which side of the aisle that you're on, it shouldn't matter to see freedoms taken away, and freedom of speech and censorship and all those things.
Yeah, he censored my homie Trump.
Yeah, but I mean, regardless of which side you're on, like, I just don't see how anybody can support that. And it's really scary where like half the world thinks that we need to take people's freedoms away.
Right.
I mean, I get comments like this all the time, and it's just like, what the heck, And unfortunately, the new administration is preaching unity, but it appears that unity for them is making sure everyone is shut up and you don't hear it, and then you have unity of what you hear. And like, there's a book by Rand Paul. It's the Case Against Socialism. I just had my 16-year-old daughter read it, talking about family unit stuff. Educate your kids. It's the most important thing. So I had my daughter read that book, and it was talking about in the early 1920s when Stalin came into power in Russia, and what he did. And he would literally, he was killing everybody. He killed 25 million people. And even his own people, his like right-hand people, he would kill them. And he actually invented Photoshop. He was literally Photoshopping all the photos and paintings and removing people out because he had killed them. And so basically anybody that disagreed with what he wanted, he killed them, 25 million people. And so that's kind of where we're at, right? Where it's like unity, but unity by shutting out half the people, not by bringing them in together. And so that's a real dangerous place. And unfortunately, going back into the money, unfortunately, I don't think the future looks super bright for making money. I think that we're going to see a lot more money printing, more inflation. We're going to see a lot more regulation. So we already seen it. So Janet Yellen was talking about taxing unrealized capital gains. Like, what? And she's serious. So like, we're gonna see this stuff. So and so when you start taxing unrealized capital gains,
taxing money you ain't make yet.
Well, but imagine like, hey, my grandfather bought this house on the beach in Newport, and he's passed it down, and I've inherited it, and now I have to pay capital gains, but I don't have any money. I work at McDonald's, but now would I have to sell the house to pay the like?
That's right. And that's right in the Communist Manifesto. Yeah,
right. Well, they want to get rid of private property, all that. And so we're starting to see this stuff. So we're going to now, obviously, he raised the minimum wage to $15. I saw some lawmaker, and she sounded super smart at first. She said, don't you understand, if you raise the minimum wage to $15, all the businesses are just going to raise their prices. So it's effectively like no raise. And I was like, wow, she actually gets it. And then she said, so what we have to do is make it where the businesses can't raise their prices. And I'm like, wait a minute, you sounded smart for a second. So like, we're going to see a lot more of this, right? So we'll see price fixing, more taxing, and more regulations. Obviously today, the inauguration day, he put us right back into the Paris Accord. It's massive, however you feel about the environment, it's just massive regulations, and massive burden put onto the Americans that other countries don't have to live by. So it's going to be really hard to make money in the future. I'm concerned about that. That's another reason why I came to Puerto Rico. My tax guy's like, Mark, you can get to your goals in 4 years. And I'm like, I don't know if I have 4 years. I want to get to my goal in a year. And so like, I'm here to make as much as I can, but also keep as much as I can, because the future for making money doesn't look super bright. But
even for the entrepreneur, huh?
Well, I think, even for the entrepreneur, because if nobody has any money, it's really hard to.
How do you sell? How do you sell? Right.
It makes it really difficult. Now, obviously, for the really good entrepreneurs, I mean, someone's always going to have a problem and a need that you can go solve. Right. Especially if so if you're creative enough, there's always going to be a way to make money. But it's going to be more difficult. And me having kids, you guys have kids, and it's a scary world, having kids right now, and that's why, like I said, I'm really trying to train them up the best that I can. But I would, on the other side of this, not to end it with all doom and gloom, we know that this will fail. history is just a constant cycle of this playing out over and over and over. And so we understand the stages of an empire, and we understand where we're at, and we know this is the last leg of it, and we know it'll fail. So that's both good and bad. It's bad. I mean, the whole thing ends, but it's good because it's going in a bad direction. It needs to kind of be reset. So on the other side of this, I think there's freedom. In addition to that, we have a tool. And so the hope that I have is back to where we started the conversation in the beginning, which is when people compete, when there's competition, there's better product, service, prices. And just like states are competing, I believe we'll get to a point where countries are competing. So for example, the United States gets so burdensome, right? We can't operate a business and you can't go outside. You have to be social distance, all these things, right? And St. Bart's is like, hey, come over here. No masks. We're free. So like rich people go over there. And another country goes, hey, we're free over here too. You can start a business. People go there. The next country, hey, we're free. And then eventually countries are like, shoot, if we don't change our policies, we're going to lose everybody. And so it's that competition that will finally break that. And we know this to be true. We've seen it again throughout history. China was a full-on communist country, and they had to ease up, and they went into like this two-party system to allow some capitalism to come in because they couldn't compete anymore. And so we know that will happen. And what really helps that to happen, and I'm old, so growing up, I had friends whose families came from Iran and Afghanistan. My best friends came from South Africa. And when they left those oppressive regimes to come to the free America, they came penniless. They couldn't bring their gold, couldn't bring their cash in the bank, couldn't bring their real estate. They came penniless. But we don't have that problem anymore. I know 12 words in my head. I can take my Bitcoin with me anywhere in the world. I could swim naked to St. John's or St. Bart's and plug in my code and have my money. And that will only accelerate this competition. And so I'm pretty hopeful that that's what's going to finally break this grip of totalitarianism that we're heading into.
So that's your presidential next 4-year prediction? Gloom and doom?
Well,
better hustle your ass up now?
I'm trying to end it with hope, man. I ain't trying to end it with doom and gloom. I mean, I have hope for the future, but unfortunately, what we can see in front of us, it doesn't look super good. And I was listening to Robert Barnes. He's a constitutional attorney, really, really big constitutional attorney. He's big on Twitter. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he's been watching, this whole election process and all these censorship issues and all these things going on. And he said in this interview the other day, he said, imagine you're a Jew in Germany in 1929. What would you do? He's like, that's what you need to do right now. He said, if they can shut down an active sitting president, what can they do to you?
That's what scares me, because my dad, before he passed, he was very, very, very not strict, but very vocal about being Jewish and very vocal about what happened. And every Hanukkah and every Jewish holiday, he would sit us down. My sisters were too young, but I remembered he would talk to us about what happened. And one of the things that I kept from him was that no matter what happens, always be strong and always voice your opinion. Don't let anybody push you around. Don't let anybody tell you can't do something. You have to be brave and you have to fight. And that's probably where I get my spunk from, is remembering what my dad said and remembering him just kind of talking to us about what happened. Because my family came from, as far as it hasn't been said, because we don't really talk. My grandparents didn't talk about it, but that's how my family got here. They were Holocaust survivors on my dad's side of the family, and no one talked about it because it was, you just, once you came to America, you didn't talk about it. You were American now. Yeah. So it's something that I remember, and I'm reading all this stuff on social media. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing people cheering that they're censoring, our past president. And I'm thinking to myself, do you guys not understand how scary this is? Like, you might not like the man, you might not respect him, you might not agree with him, but he's being silenced. This is the president of the United States.
Can I give some pushback to this just to invigorate this conversation a little bit?
Please.
The excuse is that he was inciting violence through dog whistle language.
Okay.
Through the Vulcan mind trick. Jedi mind trick.
Okay.
I would say again that it doesn't really matter. So I may hate what you have to say, but I'm always going to stand up for your right to say it. And I think also like they're trying to control the narrative with that. I mean, obviously, I'm sure both of you see through that, but it gets way deeper than that. So today, the ex-CIA head, Brennan, came out and said that we need to launch a new secret police task force to infiltrate the Trump supporters.
Do people not understand?
Wait, what?
Yeah, look it up. Brennan, CIA, secret task force. Like that's exactly what the Nazis and the Russians did. Like a secret task force to infiltrate half of the Americans and get rid of like they're CNN and whatever they're actively calling. AOC came out and said that half Americans, Trump supporters, need to be reprogrammed.
Yeah, he did say that.
So it goes way worse than just censoring the president. It's gone way past that already. It's gone way past that. And so you know, I try to be very cognizant on my own to make sure that I don't have double standards. And so it's like, well, I believe that businesses should have the right of refusal. So if that bakery didn't want to make a cake for a gay couple, then they shouldn't have to. But then I guess Twitter maybe has the right to kick people off too. Like I have to like be consistent in my views. If one private business, like, so I try to do that, but apparently nobody else seems to care about that, right? We saw today these executive orders that Biden signed. So Trump lifted the travel ban on Brazil and Australia, I think a week ago. And today Biden put those bans back in on them, but he lifted the travel ban on Muslims.
Wait.
None of this makes any sense. You know what I mean? And it's like Maxine Waters said, all the Democrats need to go out and find Trump supporters and rough them up. She called for people to go do physical harm to them.
Yeah.
And so it's the double standards that really just get me more than anything.
Why do you think they can get away with that?
Because they control everything. It's so bold in your face. It's almost like, here it is. So what?
Yeah.
You know, what are you going to do about it? You know,
right.
In my opinion, I mean, if you think about it, right? I mean, this whole spectacle at the Capitol with the fences up and all that. I mean, it's all for show, right? So, they're trying to show that their lives were threatened and that we need this massive military response now because the conservatives are that much of a threat. And they have to.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you know whose lives are at risk right now? You know what's a bigger threat than these fancy suit fucks' lives? The women that are getting beat, that are getting stuck in their house with their abuser, children that are getting abused, that are stuck at home. Kids are not able to go to school. They're not able to get an education. They're not able to obtain social skills. It's going to cause a lot of mental illness for them later on in life. People that are suffering from alcoholism and from drug abuse that can't go to their meetings. People that can't go to church and they're losing their faith. People that are committing suicide. Those are people that we should be concerned about, not some fancy suit fucks that don't give a shit about anybody. And
fancy suit fucks.
I mean, I couldn't agree more with you, Wendy. And you know, the one thing that I see people a lot in the investing world, but really just overall, I was in a Clubhouse room earlier today, and I brought the same point up. But people lose the fact that everything has trade-offs. Mm-hmm. So when you have a complex system like the body, for example, I have heartburn. Well, you don't just go treat the heartburn and like take an antacid. Like what's going on in the body, right? The body's a complex system. So the economy is a complex system, right? And so you can't just treat symptoms. You have to look at it. And so everything's got trade-offs. And so just like you said, Wendy, like, I mean, look at the trade-offs. I saw today, it was like 900,000 people are expected to die from lockdowns. 900,000. The UN reports, I think, like 2 billion more people are going to starve to death this year because of lockdowns.
People, they don't understand, because these people have not been in poor neighborhoods. They don't understand what it's like. They haven't seen people. It blows my mind, because I've been in bad neighborhoods. I've seen what goes on. I know what goes on at my boxing gym. I know what goes on in these poor neighborhoods, and these kids are not able, like, the schools were doing the job of some of these parents because that's what happened with society. That's the way society was progressing. People would have kids, they put their kids in public schools because that was just the normal standard of living in the United States, especially in these very poor neighborhoods. And these kids are not able to eat anymore because some of the parents are on drugs. They're out doing whatever it is. They're out gang banging. And this is just my reality. I don't know if this is everybody else's reality, but this is just what I've seen. The stuff that I have seen when my old neighborhood that I lived in is insane. And these people in power, they have no idea. And also too, my sister, she works for, my mom is very involved in Al-Anon, and my mom knows a lot of social workers, and social workers and child services cannot go into these homes anymore, these high-risk homes with kids. What they do is they do a Zoom call, and on the Zoom call, they say, oh, how's everything going? Da, da, da. They could physically go in anymore. So if there's bruises on the kids' arms, what do? They put the kids in long sleeve shirts. Everything is fine and dandy. They're no longer able to go in and physically remove these kids that are being abused. No, and that it drives me absolutely insane is because you're worried about something that is affecting a specific population, but you're not worried about the future of our nation. And that's what hurts me. And that's why I get so upset and so passionate about it, is because our kids matter and no one gives a shit about our kids. I'm not saying that this other demographic of these elderly people don't matter, people that are high risk. I get it. And because I worked in healthcare 7 years, but at the same time, they should be taking precautions, do stuff to keep them safe, but free our kids.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Wendy. And I mean, we have these unintended consequences of people dying and this and that, right? You're talking about kids getting beaten, wives getting beaten. That's all bad. But even worse is like you said, the future. And so I know, because I have kids, and like literally, and all the kids that I know are the same. I mean, they're literally in their bed all day under their covers on their laptop working. And like, that's their life now. None of them are learning anything. None of them are doing any work. And it's been that way for almost a year now. And so now just fast forward. Imagine where we're at in 20 years from now. Like,
this keeps social skill. When children are born, when their brand new babies are born, they recommend interaction. They do skin to skin. There's specific things they do. They recommend having the new moms take the babies for a walk in the stroller, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, getting the kids outside, having them interact, doing a mommy and me classes, because that builds social skills. Social skills are needed for development. And when you're taking that away from these kids, what do you think is going to happen? We're going to the rise of mental illness. We're going to see the rise of addiction. We are going to see suicides. We're going to see kids that are not able to, I don't like to use the word assimilate, but we're going to see kids that are going to have trouble adjusting to society and interacting with others. And that's scary. That is really, really scary, considering all the different types of violent events that we have seen, people going out and shooting or doing whatever it is. And that scares me as a mother.
I'm going to read some super chats, and then I want Mark to pontificate what else we need to look out for, because I'm taking notes. Kevin Griffin, you need Max Kaiser on here to explain the effery. Yeah, I'm going to get Max on here. Florida Man FinTech, $20 super chat, said, yes, Brennan said libertarians are part of a group that Biden's intelligence agency is moving in laser-like fashion to investigate. I'm a registered Libertarian Party member, so that ain't cool, yo. Unity, let's heal together. Alawi S, I love those words, Florida Man. Alawi S said, you want grandma to die? Emotional appeals, Trump facts. Emotional appeals trumps facts and logic in the dim age. Indeed. Mark, what else is going to happen, man? Hit me with all the conspiracies, bro.
Well,
the Gestapo's coming after us and investigating. Dollar going to crash.
I mean, that whole word conspiracy is ridiculous, right? Like, two people conspiring to do something. Like, me and my wife conspire against our kids all the time. Like, Everybody's conspiring all the time, of course, right? But I would say, I mean, I think we've kind of laid the table out. I think there's a lot of uncertainty, obviously, but I think the things that we do know for sure is that there's going to be massive amounts of money printing and debt creation happening this year. We'll see way more regulation move in than we've ever seen before. So more restriction, more money printing at the same time. I mean, that's kind of what's on my radar for right now.
In regards to how they're demonizing conservatives, now we see libertarians. How is it shaping our behavior as a people, and how are we?
Yeah.
How is this landscape going to look on the next election? Even and
Yeah. So it's a great question. And so again, I'm old, right? I'm 46, and I'm old enough to have grown up in the Cold War. So when I grew up, Russia was communist. When I grew up, Germany had the Berlin Wall, and there was East and West Berlin. Like, I grew up seeing that. I think the Berlin Wall fell in in the early 90s.
90, 91.
91, yeah, right. So like that was right when I was like a junior, senior in high school. So like I was old enough to kind of see this stuff, and I learned it. They taught us this stuff in school. They don't teach any of this anymore. And so when you go back and you read history, I love history. So I study it, and I talk about it on my channel all the time. Even like I said, having my kids read the history, and you go back and you read the history of communism and Marxism, and you understand what those are. You understand that 100% of the time, it leads to violence and murder. 100% of the time, because it has to. There's no other way. And the reason why it has to is because socialism, communism, fascism, bunch of isms. Basically, there's two systems. You either have one, it's a captured, controlled, centrally planned model, or you have a free, open, competitive model. That's it. Whatever you want to call the ism, but it's free, capture. It's free and open, or it's captured, controlled. And the socialism, the captured, controlled, centrally planned, that means the state owns the means of production.
Right.
Well, right now, I own my farm. You own your warehouse. So for the state to take that over, they're going to have to take that from us. Now, some people might be willing to give that up peacefully, but most people won't. And so those people have to be killed. It's the only way. It doesn't work any other way. That's why hundreds of millions of people have died all the time. And I've battled with people on Twitter, and they're like, "Oh, but you don't talk about how many people have died on capitalism." Okay, well, capitalism is a free exchange of goods and services. How does that kill people? I get it. I mean, people get greedy and people kill people, but like that has nothing to do with the system. The system is about free exchange, right? So, well, capitalism was slavery. Well, no, because slavery wasn't a free exchange. That it's not it's not by definition. It's not. So, but socialism, communism, Marxism is about the state taking over, and so the people aren't going to be giving that up freely, and so it's going to lead to violence every single time. And then, as we go back and study, whether it's Stalin and Lenin in Russia, or it's Hitler in Germany, Mao in China, whatever it is, they have to kill anyone who doesn't go along with it. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. I mean, obviously, we're not to the killing part yet, but whatever you want to say about the election, and there was a bunch of questions and whatever, but Trump had more votes than any president in history. And even if Biden got more votes, it was still pretty close. And that means the country is pretty much half and half. So for them to go out and say that half of the people are enemies and now we have to go after them, what are they really saying? I mean, we know through history, we know through principles where this goes. We know that it's about Marxism. So the World Economic Forum's preaching their Great Reset, right? That you've seen it in 2030, you'll own nothing, you'll be happy. Okay, what does that mean? You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That means like we all live in a commune and everybody shares everything. Communism, yeah, that's what it means, right? And so we understand that socialism is a gateway to communism. And so the way those things work, we have to do it. Charles Marx said that he envisioned the world in a world full of ashes, and he was walking through the ashes. So they believe they have to tear everything down in order to rebuild it. So
what do you say?
I didn't want to go into that. That sounds depressing. Shoot, I wanted to end on a good note.
I love all of that. What about the people who are on the left side of things, and they're cheering, right? They're like, good, go after these people. These people are, terrorists. They're Nazis. They're all of this. What type of repercussions should they look out for?
Well, I think one thing you asked this question, I didn't get to answer it, but like what happens is what all these central planners fail to recognize is human action, right? It's human motivation. Humans have motivation. Like I used to carry bushels of wood and I decided to make a wheelbarrow so I could do it faster. Like we're motivated to do things better, to serve people, to solve, like we're motivated. And so when they take that motivation away, hey, everyone's on a fixed wage, everyone has a price cap. Like they start taking those motivations out, and that's what leads to shortages of products and things like that. So that leads to a big problem. The other problem is when you start censoring speech, and this is a big one. So what happens is when you start censoring speech, then people start watching what they say, right? So I have a YouTube channel. I just hit 200,000 subscribers. I'm getting too close to the edge. I'm afraid I have to censor what I say all the time. And now I find myself, and I hate to admit it, I find myself censoring what I think.
Yep.
And when you start censoring what you think, you start losing all creativity. You start losing everything that would push into a greater future. And so really you're just going to turn yourselves into just a pile of blob that has no motivation or will or creativity to do anything.
Beautiful. All right, now my question, advice. I have a newborn, 1 month, and she fucked my sleep schedule up. How do I fix that?
You got how you sleep? Well, I can tell you how I fixed it. I don't know if it works for you, but
like to get, you know, like, because like you said, you get up, you have your routine. Like I had a routine before she was born, right?
Hold up. You have a teenage daughter, and you got a set of twins.
Yeah.
You were able to you and your fiance were able to survive the twins. Come on.
No. What I'm talking about, you got to remember the kids still got to get up in the morning and do school and all that shit. Right. So like I'm talking about like 2 a.m. I got to get up with the baby, then 5 a.m., then 8 a.m. Right. So like my sleep pattern, and I'm the type of person where I sleep very light. Right. Yeah. Like one time I was laying in bed. My girl walks up to me and I jump out my sleep, like ready to fight. She's like, yo, how'd you feel me? I sleep light like that. You know what I'm saying? So like, I get it from my dad. I guess it's military background. But then I have problems going back to sleep. So I'm just like, fuck it. I'm just going to stay up till 7 a.m. when everybody leaves the room, and then I can go and sleep till 2. So how do I put myself back in some schedule so I can be productive again?
Well, I mean, what I did, you have kids at different ages, so it's a little bit harder, but my wife didn't work. So I said, look, babe, you can sleep as much as you want. I'll never say a word if you lay around and sleep all day, but like, I need my sleep at night. And so that was the deal that we made. Like, babe, you're dealing with it, and I'm gonna work, right? So that worked for us. That may not work for you. If that doesn't, then I guess what I would say is
she's not working.
Sometimes so if she's not working, then it's like, babe, look, you know, we're a team here. Like, you can sleep and catch up all day. I'm working, so like this, you know, and when they're real young, there's not a lot you can do for them anyway, right? They need mama to eat or whatever. If that's not an option, then what I would say is what the ultra marathoners say. They say, embrace the suck.
Yeah. Right? All right. That's that's the path I was headed down.
It's not the answer you want, but it's the answer.
No, I live for the shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I live for like smiling at the end of the world. That's how I live. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know, Marx is crawling through the ashes, and I'm like walking right behind him, like trying to slit his throat.
Yeah. So embrace the suck. You know, Wendy said you have 2 older kids, so you know, like it goes by so quick. And when you look back on it, it was just like a little blip in the road that you don't even remember.
I only got a few months left.
Don't remind me. Okay, Mark, I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
This is my favorite question to ask you. I know I ask you all the time, every time I see you. Okay, what's going to happen with the housing market? Because I feel like I sold the top of the market, and I feel like a god.
You are a god.
I think, you know, I think I've made 5 different real estate videos since the pandemic broke out. I was probably going to do one next week. So I've been looking at it a lot. So first, the thing that I would say is that there is no such thing as the real estate market. Boom. I said it. There's no such thing as the real estate market. So everyone's like, what's going to happen with the real estate market? Just like your question. There's no such thing as the market. Instead, there's thousands of sub-markets broken down by area, location, price, type, all that.
What's going to happen in Southern California? As I need to, because we're renting, I need to buy a house, and I have my capital. I've got my stuff diversified. I've got
I would say so. It's area by area. So a perfect example is real estate in New York City is down 50%. In Buffalo, New York, it's up 110%. So like even within the state, it's like down 50 and up 110. So it's very granular. It's also by property type. So we have baby boomers, the largest segment of the population. They're all retiring right now. They're all selling their McMansions and they want to downsize into small houses. We don't have people coming up behind them to buy those houses. So I think that type of house is going to be severely impacted, especially in middle America where there's lots of snow and whatnot. They're all moving to Florida where they can play golf and tennis 365. So I think entry-level starter homes, bread and butter, we call them, 3-bedroom, 2 baths, in Florida and through the Sun Belt, Florida, Texas, Arizona, Tennessee would do really, really well. To your point, to California. What I would say is, what are you looking, how and what are you looking at the real estate market for? So for example, are you looking at it as an investor or are you looking at it as a homeowner?
Both.
So if you're looking at it as a homeowner, it's way different. So you can't really say both. If I'm looking at, so like I told you, I tried to buy my neighbor's house before I came out here. And I told my wife, I said, you know what, it's probably the worst time to buy a house. I'll probably be an idiot for buying the top of the market, but I don't care. I said, if this house drops 50% in value and never recovers, I don't care because I want this lot right here. And so that it was my home. I wanted to live there. I didn't care what happened with the price.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense.
Did he freeze up?
Yeah, he froze. Oh no. Man. He froze out.
Oh,
Can
he dropped out.
Can he come back in with the stuff we sent?
Yeah. He can come right back.
All right, I'm gonna go to check Twitter and see what happened. This
Yo,
was
Wendy, you've been hitting these interviews out the park, man. It's another one.
I told you I want to have him come back on again. This was so good. Like
You know all the good people.
I do. I have a good network. If there's somebody you want me to get on, I will. You let me. If you want Max on, I'll see if I can get him on.
I got Max. I can get Max.
All right, we should.
Me and Max follow each other. That's good, dude.
All right.
That's good people's right there. But Dan, you batting 1,000, girl.
I told you. I think he's done. I haven't heard from him.
Yeah, he probably there he is.
Oh, he's back?
Yeah. He's connecting his audio.
Okay.
There you go.
There you are. Sorry,
All right.
I don't know what happened.
That's okay.
It's the communists.
Oh, they're getting us. They're already censoring us.
They're coming for us.
So I was saying about Southern California. So if it's your home that you want to live in, I would say just buy it. I mean, you're getting free money. They're basically paying you to take the loan because of inflation and whatnot. I would say that I don't think that I would say that the probability of California real estate ending higher at the end of 2021 is probably greater. I don't think it's going to drop in 2021. Probably not even maybe for the next year or two. I think there will be a crash at some point, maybe. But at this point, I mean, Janet Yellen taking over the Treasury, the Fed, I mean, they're going to do everything they can to prop up this market. I wouldn't doubt if the Fed starts pumping money into the market. I mean, they already put a moratorium on evictions, moratorium on payments. They put forbearance on, so people aren't going to be losing their homes.
Doesn't that but my rational mind, because I know how to budget. I grew up very frugal. Like my rational mind is like, don't they have to make these people pay? Like, don't they have to do something? Like we saw what happened in 2008. Is 2008 going to happen again?
Well, Wendy, I mean, so we understand what should happen, like what natural market laws are, but we're a long way from that. So shouldn't college students that took out debt pay? Well, not anymore. Apparently we're going to forgive $50,000 of that. So yeah, they should pay, but that doesn't mean they will. So Hotep asked earlier, how did the market different from 2008 to now? Back then, we still had somewhat of like a real kind of like rational market. And today, all bets are off. I mean, you don't have to pay your student loan debt. You don't have to pay your mortgage debt. I mean, we'll just pay it off for you. Who cares, right? I mean,
back to school. I'm going to become a therapist or a lawyer. I'm going back to school. I'm not paying that shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a problem. I mean, what about all the people who didn't go to college because they didn't want the debt and they've been working minimum wage jobs for the last 20 years?
I finally got my bachelor's degree in 2020 because it was something I wanted to do to honor my father and for myself as well. I paid. We cash flowed it. Yeah. We went without to cash flow. And I'm just like,
I know it's a kick in the nuts. So I'd say if it's for your house in Southern California, I would say just go ahead and buy it. It's cheap, free money. If the market drops, so what? You're getting. I mean, what happens is, and Hotep can tell you because he was doing mortgages in 2008. When the market crashes, the properties are cheaper, but good luck getting a loan. And even if you can get a loan, the interest rates are so much higher. And so the one thing to keep in mind is that, and this is where this is another big misconception that people have. Especially when it comes to real estate, is most people, I think 96% of first-time home buyers finance the house. So what that means is nobody's paying the price of the home. They make a monthly payment. That's all you're doing. And the interest rates are so low that your monthly payment's the same as it was a year ago at a lower price. And the problem is yeah, prices could drop in a crash, but you're going to pay 3, 4, 5 times the interest rate, and your payment's going to be the same anyway.
That's true. That's true.
So I would say if you find a house that you like, that you want to live in for a long time, I would go ahead and do it. Now, if it's an investment property, it's a different story. What type of investment is it? Do you want to do like a fix and flip? Are you looking to buy something and sell it in the short term? If those are your chances or your strategies for investing in real estate, I would say forget that. If you're buying to have rentals for cash flow, I think that's probably the only good strategy for real estate investing moving forward. I don't think it works in California. Property values are way too high. The rent to home values are too far off. So
unless you're like you have like a LLC and you're doing it with a group of people, I don't think it makes sense in California.
But even still, right? Like I said in the beginning, your money goes where it's treated best. And why would I make 1 or 2% of my money in California when I know that they're going bankrupt and they're going to put rent moratoriums on and they're going to put rent price increases on? Like, why would I want to own a property there making 1 or 2% when I can go to Ohio or Kansas City or Indianapolis or Florida and make 8% or 10%? I'd much rather go there and make it 8 or 10%. And those areas are growing versus area that's probably going to be declining. So I would say for home ownership, go ahead and buy. Lock in these rates. It's free money. Inflation's paying it off for you. If you're an investor, the only investing strategy I'd probably use would be cash flow. I wouldn't do it in California. I'd do it out of state.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I know I can call you anytime and ask that anyway.
Yeah, of course. I just sold an apartment building in Indianapolis, and I thought that I was gonna sell the top of the market and maybe buy in a little bit cheaper. I really wanted to buy. I wanted to get out of Indiana and move that money down to Florida. But now that I put that building up for sale before Biden, before Janet Yellen, before all that. And so now with Biden and Janet Yellen, I'm thinking, shoot, I don't think it's the top of the market. I think we could double or triple from here at this rate.
Yeah, with us in California, I just wanted to get rid of the property. Like, I feel a lot better that we got rid of it and we sold it because the area was just I couldn't go grocery shopping in the neighborhood with my daughter.
And so that's another great point that you bring up. So I'm glad you did that. So at a time like this, it's the time to get rid of properties that you don't really want. If you have some really good trophy properties, like the one I wanted, my next door neighbor's property, like keep those. But if it's a property that, like my Indiana property, for example, it was like, it was a good property, but it was missing some things. I tried to buy the lot next door. The guy wouldn't sell to me. I wanted to build a carport. It didn't have a driveway. I didn't really like it. It wasn't the best property. So I just got out of it. Right. So in regards to what your property was, if it wasn't the best property, it's probably a good time to get rid of it.
That makes sense. This was a great show. We have to have you come on again because we
covered a lot of ground.
We did. Hotep, do you have any more questions? Are you still processing everything?
He's zoned out over there.
I just put some more money in my what's the name? I just transferred some more money into my stock account. As we're talking, I'm like, you know what? He's right. Because, I tell people that all the time, like, you don't want to sit on dollars, right? So, I always think consistently move your stuff to these assets. And I do it semi-aggressively. And you kind of like pushed me to be like, all right, now I'm going even more aggressive. Like moving some of that stuff and start dollar cost averaging and increasing. So I just sent a whole bunch of money over to my account. And
what I would say about that though is like, I mean, obviously you still want to hold some cash, right? So
absolutely,
I think people should hold 3 months of expenses, if not more, right? But try to get at least 3 months of expenses in cash. So yeah. I still do hold cash,
right?
And it also depends on your income level and whatnot. So like MicroStrategy, they put their whole treasury, $500 million into Bitcoin. And people thought, oh my gosh, you're going to put all your money into Bitcoin. That's so ridiculous. But they make 30 million a year. So even if they lost all that money at the end of the year, they have another 30 million. So It's like, wasn't that risky for them? So if you have high income, each person's got to kind of figure that out on their own. But you don't want to sit on too much cash, but have a little bit.
Right. Yeah. I keep enough cash to take advantage of a crash.
There you go.
That's it. That makes me feel better about my bank account.
Yeah, because I'm like him, the 2008 crisis hits, it's there, but you ain't got enough cash to take advantage. So I always keep enough cash waiting on that, that blood in the street. So I can be like, aha, I've been waiting for this moment. So I got enough cash sitting waiting for that bottom.
Yeah. My problem was I was so scarred from that. I mean, and as I said, I wasn't able to take advantage of that bottom. And then I was so scarred by it, I was waiting for the market to crash again anytime. And I could have bought back in way sooner, but I just keep waiting for the market to crash. And one day I'll be right.
Yeah, well, I keep a ton for the crash, but in the meantime, I keep a moderate amount dollar cost averaged in.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin.
Yeah, what I've been doing with some cash too is just put it into a US dollar stablecoin and then put it onto Celsius or BlockFi and earn 8% on it.
Yeah.
It's still pegged to cash. It's still dollar technically. It's still liquid. You can get it out anytime you want.
Yeah.
But at least you're making some money on it, so you're not really like losing money like you would in the bank.
Right. Yeah, we're bringing that feature to Coinbits app soon.
Oh heck yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to start showing you guys on TikTok.
Yeah, we're bringing that. We're working on that right now. We talked about that in the meeting last week.
Good. And then the limit orders, please do limit orders.
Okay.
If you guys can do limit orders, it will put you above the competition by significantly.
Say no more. Limit orders. Consider it done. Mark, thank you very much for the conversation tonight. Very exhilarating, very educational, very motivational. I wish you all the best, man. And any parting words for the people?
Yeah, I'd say my parting words are that, I know we talked about a lot of doom and gloom here, and I don't want to just end with that message. So I would just say that the future is not set, right? You're not a victim in life. The future is not set. It can be whatever you want it to be. So if some of that stuff scares you, that's not the future you want, then work hard to make sure that that's not the future that you get. Go where you're treated best.
Yeah, Mark said we got 1 year left before all gloom and doom hits.
Thanks, Hotep.
You got 12 months, man, before Biden kills us.
Well, I mean, we're like investing, right? Hope for the best, plan for the worst. So definitely start making that plan B.
Absolutely.
Mark,
you hit this one again. You did hit this one again, Wendy. Good shit.
I know that. I know. I have my network is my net worth. I worked so hard the first 2 years in crypto to network with as many people as possible and to meet people and to talk to people and just grow my network. And if I need something, I reach out and it gets done. So thank you, Mark, so much for your time. I know you're tired. We're gonna have you come on again. Give your family my love. And next time you guys are in California, come over for a barbecue. And I will not make you chicken and beans. I will make some beans, but I will have some steaks and burgers.
We love chicken and beans.
Her famous chicken and beans.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Hotep, you want to plug your show tomorrow?
Hotep's been told you tomorrow, 8 o'clock, and the Grifties start at 7. Make sure y'all hit the link for the Grifties, our award show for the Grifters of 2020. It's hitting the internets tomorrow at 7 p.m. Make sure y'all tune in for that. That's going to be a good old fun comedic time. And
I'm gonna do something next year with the Grifties.
Yeah, we're gonna get you. Maybe we'll do a crypto grifty.
Oh, they're gonna
crypto
be so
category.
I love making them mad. I love it. All right, everyone, make sure you guys follow Mark Moss. He is on Twitter. He is on YouTube. His show airs twice a week on YouTube. I recommend you check it out. Get yourself some free education. If you have a cell phone, like he said, you can watch it. You can listen through your cell phone. Yep. Get yourself some free education and don't be taking none of them Biden dollars by not paying your bills.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you for watching the Love and Marriage podcast. We are out.
Peace out.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Yep.